This article that I was just reading is by Ross Green, and the whole philosophy behind it is that kids do well if they can. And so if they're exhibiting some kind of crazy behaviors, I know I've talked about this before, there's some kind of underlying cause, and he says it's because of a lagging. Maybe it's because their lagging skill is that they have difficulty mustering the energy to persist on tasks that are challenging, effortful, or tedious. Maybe it's because they have difficulty deviating from the rules or the routine and being. Maybe they are experiencing difficulty in empathizing with other people, or maybe they're having difficulty considering a whole range of solutions to a problem instead of just picking one, the first one that comes to mind, because usually that's a very impulsive choice. So if there are kiddos destroying your room, or maybe you're a parent and your kids aren't following your directions or being respectful, there's got to be some kind of underlying cause. And this really hits on the why. Why are they exhibiting those behaviors? There's a reason. I know that some of my followers are teachers, and so I wanted to be able to share that with you all just to kind of think about those underlying causes. Some of you guys are parents, but a lot of us are just adults dealing with other adults. And I wanted to share this with you all because this applies for grown-ups as well. So much of the time we just try and put band-aids on these little situations, but if we can get to the root cause, the true why, then we actually have a fighting chance at finding solutions and teaching the skills, because if people had the skills, then they would apply them. A lot of times adults, myself included, will give consequences to kids who are acting out or having crazy behaviors. But this article says that kids who haven't responded to natural consequences don't need more consequences. Kind of makes sense, right? It says that consequences only remind kids of what we don't want them to do and give them the incentive to do something more adaptive instead, which actually isn't addressing the real issue. So again, get back to the why and fix it. Whether you're a child or you're an adult, typically our behavioral responses when we're triggered by something that we don't feel like we can do well follow this similar progression. So it starts out with like pouting or whining. It might move to swearing or screaming or destroying things. And then the further end of that spectrum includes like hitting or kicking or spitting on someone, or even inducing self-harm or drinking or doing drugs, or, as we've seen lately, school shootings. So when difficulties arise, and they always do, I need you guys to make a decision. Step number 1 is to identify the problem. Number 2 is to think of all the possible solutions. And number 3 is to anticipate what are the outcomes going to be if I apply those solutions. With whatever decision you end up going forward with, practice it, practice it, practice it. Teach it, teach it, teach it. When kids and adults and ourselves know our own expectations, we have more of an opportunity to actually rise to meet those expectations. And as always, keep your why at the center of your universe, whether you're working with a child and helping them to overcome a difficult behavior, or whether you're working with yourself and figuring out why it is that you do what you do on a daily basis. Keep the why at the center.